Hi, Boosh here, just with a quick loadout guide to help people beat Fatalis with pre-Fatalis gear, even if they're below Master Rank 100. Because I mean, I've previously soloed Fatalis with pre-Fatalis gear, just sort of as a challenge to myself to sort of prove that I could. But I'm aware that there are plenty of people who sort of are below Master Rank 100 who struggle with this fight, and they might not want to grind either the guiding lands or their level up to Master Rank 100. That said, if you are near Master Rank 100, I would strongly recommend leveling so that you have access to a lot of quality of life stuff. In particular, the health augment on your weapon and the Challenger 5 charm, because the highest you can get without the sort of uncapped guiding lands is Challenger 3, which in this video for the loadout, you'll note I essentially intentionally spend 2 additional points of agitator just to kind of account for players below Master Rank 100 not being able to run agitator 5 on the charm. So here's the loadout. There are certain key skills that we're trying to get here. I'll just run through them quickly and then go through the set bonuses and stuff. For survivability, we are running Divine Blessing 5, Health Boost 3 and Stun Resist 3. Divine Blessing 5 is a very nice skill to have in order to stop you getting one-shot by stuff and just generally make it so that you're less likely to just randomly die. The way Divine Blessing 5 works is it provides a 60% damage reduction 50% of the time. One way to think about this is if you're not at full health. If you get caught out, this just gives you a 50-50 chance to not card, which is very, very strong. It's also kind of nice in that sometimes smaller hits, they'll just be less damage, so you can maybe not have to worry about wasting time healing and just going for damage, or you might be able to just sip a first aid or something rather than use them up max potions. Health Boost 3 is just so that you have the health pool along with eating for health and stamina to survive attacks. And then Stun Resist 3 is specifically so that you don't cart from just taking a hit. Because in particular, if you are stunned, by definition you have to have been hit in order to be stunned, so you're not going to be at full health, and it leaves you vulnerable to then taking another hit, which with Fatalis you just kind of assume that's going to result in a card. Maybe you get really lucky with Divine Blessing, but in all likelihood it's just going to be a card. So Stun Resist 3 is quite nice. That said, of these 3 survivability skills, it is the one you can potentially cut, because if you're not getting hit loads, it's not doing anything. But it's a nice one to have to give you a bit more flexibility and comfort and safety in order to take your time and learn the fight and learn moveset and stuff, and having a bit of comfort to make mistakes. For damage, we are running the standard meta approach of get your affinity to 100 or as close as you can, and then use Crit Boost 3 to boost your critical damage from 25% extra to 40% extra. The reason for that is with the massive damage numbers in Iceborne compared to Wild, multiplying your base damage gives you substantially more than, say, adding attack decorations, that sort of attack bonus. So the typical way this is achieved, the way it's achieved for this build, is Affinity Augment on your weapon for +10. This can be done with Guiding Land stuff without having to get any area to level 7, so it can be done pre-Master Rank 100. Crit Eye 4 for 20% affinity. Weakness Exploit for 30, and then on Tenderized pots an additional 20, so in ideal circumstances 50 for 3 skill points, which is very good. And then Agitator 7 for an additional 20 when it's agitated, and also it gives you a nice chunky bit of extra attack as well. So if you add all those up, in ideal circumstances, that's 100% crit. There is an argument if you have space for stuff to be able to run Crit Eye 7 and then you can kind of get away with not tenderizing, because Crit Eye 7 is 40%. So the 20% that you don't get from tenderizing, you just get from the Crit Eye. But that's going to be difficult for, I suspect, most weapons due to just the lack of slot efficiency and stuff. There's just not enough space with all these safety things to slot it in. So in order to get Divine Blessing 5 and Agitator 7, we run 2 pieces of the Gold Wrath set for Divine Blessing Secret. In particular, I run the Gold Wrath chest and the Gold Wrath waist, because they are reasonably slot efficient pieces of armour, and just those 2 pieces covers your Divine Blessings. You don't need to worry about. For Agitated 7, you need 2 pieces of Raging Bracky. You have some flexibility. I would strongly recommend a lot of the time the gloves, the gauntlets, and then you can go helm or legs. That said, there may be better choices. The nice thing about the legs are good because they have weakness exploit, the arms are good because they have agitated 2 and they're slot efficient, and their head's pretty decent. It has, I believe, weakness exploit as well and pretty good slots. So you want 2 of those. You could possibly run 3 if it sort of suits you nicely, but you want 2 of those to get you sort of your Agitator 7 Agitator Secret unlocked. And then you want what will be for this Agitator 3. Again, if you're above Master Rank 100, you want Agitator 5, but Agitator 3 just to get some additional Agitator and then like 2 points of Agitator in your decorations. We also run specifically because we're fighting Fatalis, Heavy Artillery 2, which gives you double damage on cannons and on the roaming ballista. This is particularly valuable, especially if you're going solo, because the cannons, if you do the strat of ghillie mantling and then loading up the cannons on the left-hand side, that is 4,500 damage, more off you eat for Bombardier, plus a pretty decent opening to attack the head or tenderize bits. So that's like a decent chunk of its health. And then the roaming ballista, if you aim for the chest, you are typically hitting for about 80, tenderized and enraged and stuff. It can go up to, I think, 87. Again, I think Phelan Bombardier does increase it a bit as well. But the way to think of it is, this is potentially, for each time you use it, because it has 100 shots, that's 8,000 damage. And typically, you'll get 2 roaming ballistas per fight. So that is a free 16,000 damage, which is significant in the fight. There are some risks with the roaming ballista, but no amount of like attack up or crit up and stuff is really going to give you damage quite like a free like 20,000 damage that Heavy Artillery 2 can. The other thing that I run on this loadout is Part Breaker. So I run 1 point of Part Breaker on the armour and then 2 pieces of Part Breaker in one of my mantles. The idea here is that we want to try to guarantee the first head break before it goes to stage 3, you know, when you have to go behind the gate and its chest starts glowing. Because if you don't, it has blue flame sort of fire breath rather than its normal fire breath, which does significantly more damage. I think it has slightly larger hitboxes, and you will just get one shot by everything. So it is essential to get their break before that point. And also, with this amount of Part Breaker, you can also fairly comfortably get the double head break. That said, it may be if you need to slot in skills or like try to get crit from elsewhere if you're a bit short of proper efficient gems and stuff. You can also run other stuff than Part Breaker in the mantle or on the armour. So it's not essential, it's just useful. So consider that a bit of a flex slot. The other thing that you need to also account for is essential skills for your weapon. So in this particular loadout that I've got, I'm running Greatsword. I'm running the Light Break because it's the Raging Bracky stuff. I suspect for most weapons, Raging Bracky, Light Break or Safi stuff is going to be your best option for pre-Fatalis stuff. It kind of is essential, I feel, for Greatsword play and for the openings that present and stuff to run Focus 3. Like, I feel like I have to run Focus 3. And where for other weapons you might need to run stuff like Power Prolonger. I know that's fairly useful for like Kinsect or Insect Glaive and Switch Axe. It may be, I'm not completely familiar with like all the melee weapon stuff. It may be that you need more than 3 skill points. Like, I don't know quite what skills are essential for the other weapons. So maybe it might be a bit tight for certain skills. Maybe you have to drop some Part Breaker or stick Heavy Artillery in the mantle or even opt for less or no stun resist. But this core of Divine Blessing, health boost, agitator, and then weakness exploit, critical boost is the kind of, those are the really important skills that will get you the damage and the survivability that you need in order to like actually be able to eat Fatalis. So yeah, so with regard to the actual loadout, and the mantles and such. With the decorations, you can see that I run 2 loadouts. The idea being that you have one to start the fight with your cannon opening and whatnot, and then you fire across the back and switch to a different loadout. With regard to what skills to put on the mantles, the way I kind of view it is Ghillie Mantle doesn't matter what you put on there because as soon as you do any sort of attack, it disappears. So I have just stick some speed eating stuff because it literally does something in that it helps me down the demon drug at the start of the fight a bit faster, but it doesn't matter. You could stick in free meal as well if you want to like potentially preserve your sort of supply of stuff. I have opted for one loadout to have Ghillie Mantle and Fireproof, and then the other loadout to have Temporal and Glider Mantle. Another thing you can do for the opening, in fact I think I will want to swap to this for solo, because this is somewhat based on the duo loadout that I was using. Rather than Fireproof for the opening, it can make sense to run Rocksteady, because that then makes it safer to get the wallbang off after you've done the cannon, and also allows you to sort of clutch claw and tenderize like the head and the chest and then fire across the rat. Take your choice between those two. Another thing that is worth noting is you can take a slightly different approach. Rather than doing the cannon opening, punishing the topple, then wall banging and then tenderizing and then fire casting out, you can continue doing the fight as normal until it does the first nova. You hide behind the metal, and then you smoke bomb on the roaming blister and then shoot the chest with roaming blister and then Farcaster out after you've done that. The idea being that then you can, if you want, have on your main loadout that you switch to go without heavy artillery. It does mean that towards the end of the fight, if the roaming blister comes back, you might not have heavy artillery, but it may be that if you're really tight for skills, that might be okay. It's up to you. I think in general the safest thing is to like just Farcast out and have heavy artillery on both. But these are things you can kind of play around with, see what suits you. With regard to the second loadout, the reason I run Glider over Fireproof is that it lasts a long time and recharges quickly. So it essentially means that for most of the time I will have Part Breakup. I also have, as a side skill, have Tool Specialist because it's sort of dual gems, which does make the Temporal come back quicker, which is nice. But it's the key thing is that with the Glider, it does mean I can get sort of those extra skills for free fairly consistently. Temporal I will use for when I need to tenderize safely, or they can be nice with the ballista because you can just get sniped whilst on the ballista. It depends how stuff lines up, whether you wait around for it or not. But yeah, you could run Fireproof Mantle instead of Glider. It's perfectly reasonable. It makes sense. It gives you an extra sort of protectiveness. It does still allow you to run 2 points of Part Breaker. It does mean that you'll have Part Breaker up less. That probably isn't actually going to be an issue unless you really want the double head break, but it should be sufficient to get the first head break before the third phase, which is the key thing. With regards to armor choice and stuff, I've had a look, and the Golden Wrath chest and waist are basically just the other pieces aren't particularly great. So they are just the best, so you'll want to run those in order to get the secret without basically having crap skills and slots. For the Bracky stuff, you can see I run Kolftaroth leggings and then the Bracky helm and arms. Kolftaroth is a really nice set for sort of crit boost and pretty good slot efficiency. If Katie's not on rotation and you're sort of struggling a bit, the reason why I historically run Kolftaroth is up until recently I didn't actually have enough. I only had 2 crit boost gems, so I couldn't actually get to crit boost 3 easily without having a piece of armor that had at least 1 point in crit boost. In general, crit boost is kind of an awkward one to fit in, as is weakness exploit as well. So it sort of depends on where you're strained on decorations and such. But that said, if you're looking for crit boost pieces of armor, Safi stuff, I believe Safi legs and Safi helm, also have crit boost, so those are options as well. Kolftaroth is just more slot efficient, but if it's not in rotation, you just want to have a crack at Fatalis. There's not much in it. So it can make sense to just use Safi as well. I know at one point when I was first doing Fatalis, sort of enduros and stuff, and Cultivar wasn't in rotation, I was using the Safi helm and the Bracky legs. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It's slightly more slot efficient the way I've got it set up here. With regard to decoration choices, yeah, it's fairly self-explanatory. I've got the vitality on the focus stuff. I've got, reasonably slot efficient stuff. The double challenger jewel is, as mentioned, there just to account for below master rank 100. You're not going to have challenger 5, you can have challenger 3, so you need 2 extra points of agitators. So they are wasted there, but it's to kind of account for what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, and then you just account for extra minor skills. So tenderizer evasion window is quite nice in this fight, but it's not essential. I also run fortify on both loadouts. The idea if you're struggling with this fight, you're probably going to cart maybe a couple of times. Even in the full run I've done with this, which I'll add the link to in the description, I carted once, just getting sort of sniped on the Roman Ballista, and it is a significant improvement in damage, even if you only fortify once. So yeah, so that's the basic consideration for stuff. I might make a follow-up video to this one that outlines some of the more minor stuff, so Palico setup, what to eat for, and things like that. I also probably want to maybe do a bit of a general strategy approach / what openings to exploit video as well. If there's anything in particular that you think I've missed, or any of those things I've mentioned that you think you would want to see, leave a comment, let me know, and I'll try and get on it as soon as possible. But for now, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think of the video. Bye.